I am a sommelier and co-founder of WineFolly.com, where we learn by drinking. For the longest time, I was a red wine girl. Give me your biggest, boldest, richest, most high tannin, opulent, bold red wine, and I was a happy lady. I have to admit to you, though, my tastes have changed. I went from loving donuts as a kid to preferring croissants somewhere in the middle, and now I just want some warm, freshly baked bread. In that same vein, my palate for wine has changed too over the years. I went from these big, bold red wines to more aromatic floral reds to sparkling and champagne, and now I'm kind of in a white wine phase. So I thought it'd be useful to have a white wine tasting together today with some grape varieties that you might not have heard of. And each of these wines comes from a region that does white wines well. So let's taste some great whites together. Our first wine comes to us from Hungary. It comes to us from a little region in the northeastern side called Tokai, and Tokai is extremely historic. It's actually the first official classified vineyard area in the world. And guess what? It was most known for white wine, and not just white wine, sweet white wine. This became one of the most copied wines in the world. So eventually, Hungary classified this area. The grape varieties that most famous one growing in that region is Ferment. Ferment goes into these age-worthy sweet wines, but they're also starting to produce dry wines, and that's exactly what's in my glass right here. This guy looks to be a medium yellow color with green flecks, really intense colors coming out of the glass, and one of the things I'm expecting on this wine is high acidity. So let's give it a taste. On the nose, it smells like honey, honeycomb, green pepperoncini, with a little bit of fresh thyme. So we're getting super sweet aromatics as well as green aromatics. Let's give it a taste. Woo! So much acidity comes through in this wine, and it's not like super sweet, although you will find because they have such high acidity, they usually have a few grams per liter of residual sugar. That's just to balance out that insane acidity that's burning on my palate right now. I get flavors, again, sort of a balance between sweet and savory, with this green bell pepper complementing these sort of honey notes. Very dry on my palate, even though I bet there are a few grams of residual sugar. This wine, if you like dry Rieslings, you'll probably love Ferment. Highly recommended. Royal Tokai Company is this particular wine. There are many other producers there. This is one of the largest. All right, next wine. Next up, we have Semyon from Hunter Valley, Australia. Semyon is one of those grape varieties that nobody's ever heard of that I think is really fascinating and interesting. Also makes an incredibly age-worthy wine. You'll find it growing in Bordeaux, in Australia, in Napa Valley, all over the place in very famous quality producing wine regions. But again, no one ever talks about Semyon. In Australia, Hunter Valley, it is the oldest wine region in Australia and was started by some of the most classic producers. Tyrrell's is one of those classic producers there. This is a big label in Hunter Valley, and we're going to give their Semyon a try. There is something to know about Hunter Valley Semyon. They produce wines for age. They want to produce wines with super high acidity, so they tend to pick a little earlier. You'll also note a lot of wines tend to be low alcohol. This dog is only 11%. So if you're looking for a wine that is going to be a little lighter on the caloric value, this is definitely one to check out. This wine has medium platinum colors. There's a lot more green fleck than the Tokai wine. Definitely a fresh looking wine at a 2017 vintage. Let's give it a sniff. On the nose, I get hints of peaches and preserved lemons, as well as another herbaceous note. It hits me almost like fresh cut grass. Let's give it a taste. This wine has a lot more mid-palate. Very oily in the middle palate of this wine. I do get some acidity, but not as much as the Ferment. And this really sort of funky green flavor coming through. It's oily, but then it's grassy at the same time, and it's very lean. I have that tingle of acidity that still carries through. This is an interesting wine. I would say maybe not my favorite Semyon from Hunter Valley. Maybe it's the vintage is off or something like that. Or maybe it's been aging in my really ghetto hot cellar that's been under lights for a few years. Another great wine to try, Semyon. I'm a huge fan. Next wine. This guy comes to us from Alsace. Alsace is a region in France that is just outside of Germany, and you could say the traditions in winemaking in Alsace are much more like German winemaking traditions than they are like French. And one of those things that makes it so is the production of white wine. This area has over 50 Grand Cru vineyards, special sites that produce white wines, excellent white wines. And they tend to focus on the grape varieties of Pinot Gris, Riesling, and Gewürztraminer. This is a Pinot Blanc, so it's one of the lesser grape varieties of that area. This is a Ventus d'Alsace. Pinot Blanc is actually a mutation of Pinot Noir. Pinot Gris, Pinot Noir, Pinot Blanc, they're all essentially the same grape with just subtle mutations in their DNA structure to survive in different climates. So Pinot Blanc being the most delicate of the three grapes with white grapes. On the nose, this wine smells aged. This is a 2014 vintage. It already smells like it is very developed in its aromatic quality. I get sort of these subtle notes of baked maple, sort of mushy peach, applesauce, and almost like wood chips. I wouldn't say this wine is oaked at all. It smells very clean. It just smells aged. Let's give it a taste. On the palate, this wine has an incredible taste structure. Even though it smells super old, it comes in really fresh with these peachy notes, develops a nice mid-bat palate that sort of sprites and explodes in the back of my palate. At 12.5% alcohol, it is not high alcohol wine by any stretch, but it is extremely well balanced on my palate. This wine does have some savory notes to it. It's definitely a dry wine. And I get these sort of funny sort of maple bacon kind of note to this wine that I find is really, really interesting. It smells so different than how it tastes. All right. The last wine. This wine comes to us from Oregon, from the southern Oregon region, which is starting to be an up-and-coming region for wines of all styles, and they do a particularly good job at white wines, particularly southern Willamette Valley and south. I've been tasting some amazing Pinot Gris from around there, but this one is Viognier. Viognier is one of those wines which, if you love Chardonnay, you might have heard of it. Viognier is a more bolder style white wine. It can handle a little bit of oak aging, so it tends to get oak aging. Oak is that thing that develops those sort of buttery, vanilla kind of notes to wine, and Viognier does a much more floral job. So let's give this guy a taste. This looks to be a medium gold or a pale gold color, really pretty in the glass. On the nose, wow, it smells like vanilla cake, like a really pretty like vanilla cake violets and almost like orchids. It's super floral, but it's also vanilla cakey, so that note of oak aging is definitely coming through on this wine, and almost a bit soapy. You could almost call it like grandmother's bathroom soap or something like that. Let's give it a taste. On the palate, this is definitely the most full-bodied white wine of the bunch. Really, really rich all across my palate. Lots of oiliness on the mid-palate and on the sides of my palate, sort of building up that sort of sensation like you would on a bolder Chardonnay wine. Still, I get some nice phenolic bitterness. That's that part in the back of my palate where it's a little bit bitterness, which I think is really nice to balance against all these sweet, fruity, floral, cakey smells, which makes this wine a lot more complex. Acidity-wise, it's a lot lower than the other guys, but then again, I'm at the time of my tasting where I'm like, I don't really want my teeth to fall out of my face. I kind of want something a little bit more chill, and this wine is happy to provide that option. So there you have it. We have here 4 amazing white wines that are worth checking out. Pinot Blanc from Alsace, Viognier from America, this one's from Oregon, a Semyon from Hunter Valley, Australia, and Ferment from Hungary. What are you drinking right now, and what do you want me to drink next. If you love what we're doing, definitely subscribe. That's winefolly.com/subscribe. We've got the Wine 101 guide. You can get it for free. Love you guys so much, and until next time, peace out.